Justin Trudeau makes a pit stop in Alberta to hold a press conference only to run away and hide from Danielle Smith. Let's get into it.
Oh, yeah!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. I always try to find a positive spin on videos, and it seems like with Justin Trudeau these days, he just can't go anywhere without people losing their minds and heckling him, yelling at him, threatening him, asking questions that, of course, should be asked these days out of a prime minister who's stealing straight out of our pockets without a second of guilt. But Justin Trudeau yesterday took a stop in Alberta to lecture Albertans about how dirty we are and about how terrible we are and about how we need to be censored. And of course, well, things led to a rather brash exchange with Danielle Smith, and we're going to get into that. But first, I wanted to show a little bit of what exactly Justin Trudeau was doing in Alberta yesterday. True North reporting here. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was asked why he believes an online harms bill is necessary and what he thinks of Pierre Poilievre's characterization of the bill as banning speech that Trudeau hates. Now, I covered this earlier in the week where we talked about how this act is basically rolling out what the World Economic Forum was threatening, that, oh, these cyber attacks are going to come. And Justin Trudeau and his ministers, of course, have been grilled as to why they're seeking emergency powers again, just like during lockdowns, these secretive powers that can allow them to override Canadians' privacy. Now, we've already seen when it comes to online social media platforms like YouTube, like Instagram, like Facebook, that independent media outlets are not allowed to actually have their search results pop up within search engines, and legacy media, or prostitutes as I call them, are allowed to get in because they take Justin Trudeau's money and they're under his payroll. Now, what's cute about this is he tries to dress it up, and I want you to think and listen to a lot of the key words that are being used here, and I am going to have to stop the video from time to time because there's a lot of points I don't want to miss that Justin Trudeau brings up that's very hypocritical of his statement as to why he believes this is necessary. But think back to the pandemic. Think back to these are racist, misogynists. Should we, how do we tolerate them? They just take up space. Remember those kind of remarks? Well, he's back to the name calling. So for a guy who wants to protect people from harm, he sure likes to finger point and call names. But let's get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. And then again, I'm going to stop periodically so we can address all the points of hypocrisy. And then we're going to get on to the good stuff.
Why do you think the online harms bill is necessary, and why can't people be allowed to say what they want online?
First of all, we know, and everyone can agree, that kids are vulnerable online to hatred, to violence, to being bullied, to seeing and being affected by terrible things online. We need to
terrible things online, like videos that tell them to take puberty blockers, or information that would tell them that they're not good enough in their own bodies, or that they're misogynistic or phobic if they don't date somebody from the same gender. Is that what they're at risk for, Justin Trudeau?
do a better job as a society of protecting our kids online the way we protect them in schoolyards, in our communities, in our homes across the country.
Again, how they protect them in schoolyards and in communities. So right now in Alberta, there's been posts put out by teachers talking about how hard of a time they're going to have teaching sexual education to students now that they have to involve parents. They're actually frustrated because they have to include the parents in their process. And I guess I look for the words when it comes to these things to say, when he's talking about protecting kids, he's talking about indoctrinating kids, not protecting them. He wants to indoctrinate your children. Do you remember during the pandemic, the whole creepy moms, dads, leave the room so I can address your kids? This is the guy who wants to protect your children. But when you hear about these teachers that are saying, well, we're struggling because we don't know how we're going to teach sexual education to children now that, again, we have to include the parents. Well, my question is if you feel that it's that necessary to be that graphic with my children, that you'd feel you can't include me in those procedures, maybe you shouldn't be the ones talking to my kids to begin with. How about that? Those are the protective measures that should be put in place. And if you look at Alberta, and again, we're going to get to Danielle Smith. She's the one who's looking out for our kids' futures, not this jackass, but let's continue.
We need to make sure, and I think we can all agree, we need to protect our kids online. Now,
from you. We need to protect them from you and your sick, sick army of clowns.
How to go about do that is a very careful balance. We need to make sure we're protecting freedom of expression. We need to make sure we're protecting the freedoms and the rights of Canadians while we protect kids. That's why we've spent years working with different community groups, with advocates, with minority communities, with experts,
with drag queens, with people who say that parents have no rights. Again, with ideologies of puberty blockers and body mutilation, medical assistance in death. Yeah, he sure has spent time with the right groups to make sure that they're thinking about our kids and their futures.
People in all sorts of different backgrounds to make sure that what we're doing is actually protecting kids. And I look forward to putting forward that online harms bill, which people will see is very, very specifically focused on protecting kids and not on censoring the internet as misinformation and as the right wing tends to try and characterize it as. I think everyone, wherever they are on the political spectrum, can agree that protecting kids is something governments should be focused on doing.
That I couldn't agree more with, Justin Trudeau. We should be focused on protecting our kids. Again, from you. We should be protecting them from you, Joe Biden, all these creeps who want to get their mitts on our children and convince them that they should wreck their bodies. Again, I keep going in the same patterns, folks, but I just find it so rich that this man is making these claims. Again, last week, I was blocked on Twitter by Marcy Ian, who said Justin Trudeau and I were up until the early hours of the morning consoling children. Whose children were you talking to in the middle of the night and consoling? Only to say, oh, because of Danielle Smith's new rules, because of her decision to make it for adults only to do these things to their bodies, that children are so devastated and hurt. Whose kids are you touching and talking to and consoling? I don't understand. Now, Marcy Ian blocked me, of course, because I asked her, am I to understand you'll be giving your children these puberty blockers? And of course, they blocked me instantly because, let's be honest, folks, these politicians don't care about trans rights. Trans rights don't exist because they're the same as any human rights. If you're trans, if you're straight, if you're gay, if you're bi, you have the same rights in principle of the country. You're not more special than anybody else. We're all the same. Everybody hates us the same. That's life. Let's continue.
The Conservative leader says your bill on hate is about banning speech you hate. And he also called you someone with a woke authoritarian agenda who spent the first half of his adult life as a practicing racist. What's your response to that?
My response to the substantive part of that question is Mr. Poilievre hasn't even seen the legislation we're about to put forward next week. He's already telling people exactly what it is and what it isn't. I think responsible leadership is about dealing in facts, actually reading a piece of legislation before he starts telling people what he thinks it does, and then having a rigorous debate in Parliament about how to best protect kids. He's not interested in that. He's interested in hurling insults, in distracting from the fact that he has no plan on housing. He has no plan on childcare. He has no plan on fighting climate change and creating good jobs for the future.
Really? Let's go over that, shall we? Pierre Poilievre has said that he's going to give incentives to home builders and actually give them a bonus if they complete their projects or their estimates within record time in order to build more homes. So I don't know what that's called in terms of building homes or having a plan to build homes. He does have plans for the environment. He wants to axe the tax that these guys are lining their pockets with and research fundamental technologies that are actually going to benefit the environment, that are going to be clean for the environment. Things like transporting natural gas through a pipeline, transferring oil through a pipeline versus train rail. If you remember Le Mégantic derailment ages ago, he's got no plans. So of course Justin Trudeau backs up the guy's question right away by saying, are you just putting this out because you don't like what people are saying about you, and you don't like what Pierre Poilievre is saying about you? And the first thing he says is, oh, he wants to hurl insults at me. He's just confirmed why he wants this bill. It's to protect his fragile ego, and so that the only people who can give you information are his paid and bought for media.
He has no plan in terms of building and protecting the kinds of jobs here in Alberta or across the country that people are going to rely on in a transforming world. What is he has a plan for? He's a plan for stoking division, creating fear, throwing out personal insults. That's not leadership.
Okay. Again, I'm sorry I have to keep stopping it, but he just keeps touching on everything he has done. Stoking fear, causing division, right? Spreading disinformation. You guys, again, remember, they're racists, they're misogynists. How do we tolerate them? They simply take up space. You don't want to get on a train or a plane and sit next to an unvaccinated person. Like this, he's literally putting himself out in the open here for all of this judgment. This man clearly has no qualifications to run a country. We know this. But he's confirming it the more he talks. It's laughable. This clown is in charge of our country.
Canadians deserve a government that is focused every day on building a better future for them. That's what I'm doing here today. He can throw whatever insults he like. I look forward to having substantive debates on how we're going to fix the challenges Canadians are facing, because we're busy doing that while he's busy ranting.
Ranting like you just were. Now, when it comes to other forms of information, when it comes to the online community, and the reason that Justin Trudeau wants to block us out, well, let's take a listen here. Cat Canada posting how she takes a little bit of a pat on the back for what Justin Trudeau has to say here. Trudeau says that social media drivers are doing everything they can to prevent people from agreeing on a common set of facts. She says, thank you for acknowledging our hard work, Justin. We're glad you noticed. Let's take a listen to what Trudeau had to say here.
There is out there a deliberate undermining of mainstream media. There are the conspiracy theorists, there are the social media drivers who are trying to do everything they can to keep people in their little filter bubbles, to prevent people from actually agreeing on a common set of facts, the way, the CBC and CTV, when they were our only sources of news, used to and global used to project across the country at least a common understanding.
Like CBC and CTV and global. Come on, Trudeau. Folks, I'm so glad that you're in my filtered little bubble and that you've come here to get your conspiracy theory tinfoil facts from me on this channel. But here's where it gets good. Here's where it gets really good. After his stop in Alberta, Premier Smith, Danielle Smith, who was kind enough to stop by and chat with me on the channel back in November. I would highly recommend going to check out that interview if you haven't already. Danielle Smith, who shows she's got more testicular fortitude than the Prime Minister. Today, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke with Alberta media, during which he managed to call Albertans fools, claimed the carbon tax was saving Alberta families thousands of dollars, which it's not, and condemned anyone supportive of parental involvement in their child's education. Because God forbid parents have any involvement in what their kids are doing. We know that Albertans do not take this absurd claim seriously. However, it is sad to see the Prime Minister, like his father before him, mic drop, try to use Alberta as a punching bag to win votes in other parts of the country. Instead of attacking our own province, Mr. Trudeau, could have informed our government about his visit to Alberta and extended an invitation to meet with me to discuss our amazing energy sector and workers, Alberta green technologies that are changing the world, removing red tape for struggling childcare operators, or the housing and affordability challenges. Next time the Prime Minister visits Alberta, I hope he calls my office to arrange a meeting, as he did with premiers of Ontario, British Columbia, and Manitoba. I await his call. What a mic drop. Absolute mic drop. Hook, line, and sinker. Stick a fork in him. He's done. Danielle Smith with a 1-2 punch. Trudeau comes to Alberta and doesn't even tell her he's here. He's in her jurisdiction and doesn't say, yeah, I'm going to be here doing some press conferences or talking about how crappy the province is. Nothing at all. Just sneaks in under the radar, does his little press conference, and then scurries away as quick as can be, because he'd hate to have any form of common sense put in front of him. Because if he's not being blasted by Pierre Poilievre in Ottawa, he'd surely get a blastful from Danielle Smith. But here she talks about how we have the greatest energy workers in the world, and we do. We have the cleanest oil practices on the planet. So when you want to talk about environmentally friendly, look no further than Alberta's oil and gas sector. A lot of people see oil and gas as this dirty, terrible process, and what they don't realize, especially something I've come to see over the last 2 decades, being married to my amazing wife, is that she works in oil and gas, and I've seen firsthand what these fracking sites look like and the processes that go on based on what she brings home from work and what she talks about. And anytime you see James Cameron or Leonardo DiCaprio or one of these fart-huffing celebrities that comes in and goes on a helicopter tour and says, oh, look at the devastation. Look at the Chinooks that are coming through. It's climate change. It's all these terrible things. What they don't tell you is that most of the time, in fact, 99.9% of the time, when those fracking projects are done, the oil companies leave the land in better condition than when they found it. And more often than not, they turn into things like wildlife sanctuaries to inhabit future growth and make sure that we have carbon emitting or carbon sucking trees, that we have clean forestry and places for animals to live without being threatened or losing their numbers. But, you know, nobody wants to touch on those things. They just want to talk about all the dirty, negative things Alberta does. But Justin Trudeau scurrying away. He's scared of Danielle Smith, and I find it funny at best. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Do you think Justin Trudeau is scared of Danielle Smith? Do you think he ran away? I think it's because when you look at her mentioning that he notified Ontario, British Columbia, Manitoba, that it's simply because those are all politicians that are on his side, including fart-huffing Doug Ford, who wants to pretend that he's a conservative. I call him the closet liberal. But that's why he doesn't call. That's why he doesn't say he's coming. He doesn't want to have a fight on his hands, and he doesn't want any common sense. Again, let me know your opinions down below in the comments. Were you as happy as I was to see that Danielle puts a little bit of scare into Justin Trudeau? If that is anything to say Alberta is calling, ladies and gentlemen, this is the time when, if you hate Justin Trudeau, you should be packing up and moving to Alberta, because clearly Justin does not want to be here. He doesn't want to come within our borders, and when he does, he's out very quickly. So this is obviously the place to live. If it's your first time here, I hope this video's earned your subscription. Make sure to click that subscribe button, turn on the bell for notifications, as Mr. Socks doesn't want us talking about him because we might hurt his feelings. So make sure to do the usual YouTube stuff: like, share, comment, subscribe, everything that helps us get out in the algorithm, especially liking and commenting. So help us out there if you can. And while you're at it, join us this Friday on the channel for Friday Night Fringe at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Central, where we're definitely going to be talking about this kind of stuff. We're going to go over everything that happened in the week behind us, the week ahead, and we're going to have a little bit of back and forth with the community. And I really am loving all the new members coming in, or new subscribers, I should say, coming in and joining us in the live streams, talking with me outside of these videos. It's always great to see new folks in there, as well as everyone who's been there from the beginning, and hearing what you guys have to say. That's my favorite part of the week, and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you there. Again, 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central this Friday. I look forward to it, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I know I'm going to have a good chuckle now. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.